Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to the 44.
Which is this thing. This was a marine engine repair shop that when we got it was in pretty dire condition. And the goal was to create this music recording live venue spot. The walls, like this is a diffusion pattern, and we milled this out of cedar, which was from trees on the property. And this whole place has been treated acoustically. So we've got absorption panels on the back, and we've got foam in the ceiling. And what's been shocking to us is we've never asked a band to play here. And that's not like a policy, we've just never had to. We get 2 or 3 bands a week asking to play here. We have this ritual where at the end of a show, we take 2 Polaroids, and one we keep and then one we give to the band. And it's been crazy. I mean, we had Hawksley Workman play here, Ferris and Jason Romero, 4-time Juno winners. It's just been incredible, the bands that have played here and the caliber of the performers that reach out and want to play.
Well, the 44 just kind of happened organically, just a series of different evolutions.
It is an amazing piece of property, but it was a little rundown, abandoned. So we started to clean it up. I mean, the shop, we started to do jam sessions and shows, and that just grew very organically.
Mm-hmm. And then the farm we had an opportunity to get baby alpacas, and so we seized that opportunity, and then that became the community garden. So everything's just sort of happened in these evolutions. We never set out or had a plan to do any of this. We've just taken in inspiration from the community and what people want to see happen up here.
So the heart of the 44 sound is this thing. This is a Rupert Neve designed Amex BC3, which is a broadcast console, and it came from CBC in the 90s or early 2000s. CBC converted to all in the box like computer stuff, and they got rid of their crazy vintage analog gear. And one of the techs from CBC had this, and he restored it, which means replacing all the capacitors in it. It's like 150, like an insane amount of work. And that brought it up to having another 25 years of life ahead of it, and it just sounds incredible. And I know, a lot with live shows, it's all going digital, but there's something about the analog and like being able to go to a knob, and it's like this vintage, amazing sounding console. So one of the things we're just so passionate about here is making performers sound their best, and we use like really good microphones, really good board. We run a little compression, an EQ on every channel. We've got a PA that we've just spent so long trying out different ones and designing it and just getting it so the sound here is incredible. So, this place, it looks like the old shop that it is, but it has a really good heart when it comes to sound, and it sounds really good in here. So that's been something we're really proud of. So in addition to the live shows, the 44 is also a recording studio. So this whole thing is on wheels, and when we do live shows we have it over here, but when we record we pull it into the middle of the room where it sounds the best. And we've got vintage boutique preamps, compressors, all the usual suspects, and a big patch bay so we can plug anything into anything and route anything through anything, and these amazing Genelec speakers. And it's my office during the day, and there's something about the sound of this room, and we say like the world doesn't, there's a lot of recording studios in the world, right? But a recording studio where performers can come and just feel really good, like there's good vibes up here, and you can be here and look out the window and be inspired by nature. And we find that performers just get closer to their music. Maybe it's because we're not watching the clock. It's not like a studio in the city where get it done, we got 2 more hours left. There's something about being in this very relaxed Southern Gulf Island, beautiful location that allows performers to connect with their music in a way that hopefully is unique. So that's one of our jams. These are called the binary amplitude diffusers, and basically the sound hits this and it just sprays, and it just creates this really like soft reverb. Plus we absorb all the bass frequencies in the corner, and all of these panels are flippable. So in this mode it's like absorbing, but if we record like violins or acoustic instruments. We just flip these and hang them up. And then the room gets a lot more reverberant, but not in a hard echo way, in a very soft diffuse echo way, due to these guys, which is some crazy mathematical pattern which reflects the sound. In my Canadian vintage amp collection, I like old Trainer vintage amps. The speakers are crappy, but when you replace them, they sound amazing. So there's a few of those, and our house drum set. And we heat the whole thing in the winter with the wood stove.
Yeah, I think it's really what's really cool about the shop or the studio is that in the summertime when we have shows, we can kind of throw open the big door and audiences can come and spread out into the sunlight, and that's really fun. But in the wintertime, there's this whole other vibe in here where we are really remote and it is very rustic in here. So we heat everything with the wood stove. And so when people come and perform, they're performing behind a roaring fire, and the audience is really intimate and it's cozy, and it's the most cozy concerts ever. They're kind of my favorite. And the performers are standing here playing, and sometimes they get really hot, but it's kind of just all part of the rustic remoteness vibe, for lack of a better word, of the shows up here at the 44. I really like the wintertime shows.
In between songs, sometimes we're like, "Oh, can you just stop for a sec? We got to put more wood on the fire."
We have to
and the band's
recharge
like,
the
"What
fire.
is happening right now?"
Adam comes up and shoves more wood in as they're performing. I really love that part.
For me, the major benefit is quality of life. I worked in technology. I still do, but I worked in front of a computer for 25 years, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12, 15 hours a day sometimes. And that's amazing, and I love that. And I wouldn't change a thing, but having dirt and growing plants and having a dinner that's everything you pulled from the garden, I didn't realize how much I would like that. And that change of lifestyle is by far the biggest benefit for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is our fire pit. This has been a fire pit from long before us.
And the 44 is set up to host campers and folks who are here for retreats and things. So we have kind of an outdoor kitchen set up. As Adam mentioned, this is the fire pit area where people really like to congregate late into the night.
Yeah.
And part of that as well is we created an outdoor shower which faces into the woods, which is a really lovely experience. So it's all hot water, rainwater. The hot water is done by a propane heater. So that's what that funky triangle building is, built by a dear friend of the 44.
And this is our cedar outdoor shower, which only has two sides, and you're naked to the forest in this direction. Shower head's here, and it's all rainwater and propane heat, and that's your view.
When I think about the challenges of having a place like the 44 and running the 44, the first thing that comes to mind is water. And it's our most precious resource here, and it's a precarious thing. And so keeping the fine balance between being able to run the farm and provide water for the alpacas and for the studio, and watching the rain forecast pretty religiously, it is a challenge, and it's a challenge to have all these water networks hooked up so that they work efficiently and that we can get as much water as possible throughout the rainy season. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
And being on an island is challenging too. The stores aren't open all the time. You might need something, you have to go off island. The ferries cancel ferries. There's a lot of challenges that you encounter when you're on a remote island. There is another side to that though. Those challenges, I think, are what make the island great. I mean, if there was a highway here, it would be West Vancouver and there'd be 4 Starbucks downtown. So those challenges are actually, we've got a silver lining to them, but yeah, you just can't get whatever you want whenever you want.
And we're standing right now on a deck that we worked on that's created with wood that was taken down from trees. They're building a pedestrian and bike trail throughout the island. And these trees were taken down to build that trail, and they were offered to us. So what we did was we milled it on the property, and we created this big deck / stage that we're able to have shows out here in the summertime. So welcome audiences to have a seat out here in the sunshine, and bands will play with this beautiful background. This used to be an old house actually. So this is the footprint of where the house was, and it burnt down in the 90s. So we kept the same footprint just to keep our impact really low. Didn't have to disturb anything or cut down any trees. We kept the exact same footprint where we put this deck. Another really special part of this this area is that sound travels really efficiently up from the water, and sometimes when you're on this deck, the southern resident orcas will be swimming by, and you can actually hear them as if they're like 10 feet away, so you can hear their blows as they swim by.
Any recommendations for anyone who is thinking about doing something like this? I do have one. It's fake it till you make it. And what I mean by that is, like, we didn't know anything about gardening or rainwater catchment or building anything.
Alpaca farming.
And I mean, YouTube, as we all know, is such an amazing resource, and you just jump in and you just figure it out. And don't let not knowing about something be any kind of blocker, because we didn't know about any of this. And you just feel it and learn, you know, YouTube, all the different places that you can figure this stuff out, and just jump in.
Yeah, I agree. You're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be costly mistakes. There's going to be a couple $1,000 mistakes along the way, and you're like, oh. But I'm also a big believer of fake it till you make it. Just jump right in, just do it, and figure it out as you go.
This is one of our bell tents, like a glamping tent. We've got 7 of these, and every year we do retreats. We did one last year, like a tech retreat. We had a bunch of friends and colleagues from around the world come together we discuss like ethics and artificial intelligence and machine learning, but you know, we get people together and we have these retreats, which is pretty fun, and you stay in these. So we've got 7 of these guys, and it's not a bad place to stay for a couple of days for a weekend. It's pretty fun. So we sprinkle these throughout the property, and people can stay in here while they're up at the 44.
Okay, so now we're above the farm part of the 44, and this is our main water catchment for the farm area.
So it's 5,000 gallons. The roof is pretty small for this, so the roof doesn't, I mean, it helps, but we have 3 rainwater catchment areas, this being the biggest one, and they're all interconnected. So if I show you back here, so this is the largest of our 3 different catchment areas. So these are 2 2,500 gallon tanks, which looks like a lot. It is a lot, but what's crazy is how much water gets used. So if you look here, this was last Sunday, and we're now here, it's 5 inches, and that's 1 week. So in the summer, we use 5 inches of water a week. So at this going rate, we're going to run out in August, but we have connected all of the other tanks. So this is a hose, 1,500 feet, and this goes all the way to the other side, where we've got 2 other tanks smaller than this. They're 2,000 gallons each. So we've interconnected them. So this is the first year we've had all the tanks going, and we think we're going to be okay, but we don't water that much. And it's amazing, like that's a week. Like, look at how big these are, and that's like 1 week, 5 inches of water.
Water is our most precious resource here, not only in the 44, but on the island. We're very, very, very conscious about water, and we watch every rainfall that comes in.
Yeah, it's funny, when you collect rainwater, your whole outlook on rain changes. Like, I used to think, you know, like, oh, it's a rainy day, that sucks. And now when it rains, it's like, it's raining.
Yay! We're rainwater hoarders, let me tell you.
Yeah.
What have I learned about myself? Well, I have learned how deeply I care about nature and this ecosystem, like deeply care, to the point where I would love to see whatever we plant and what we do up here have a positive impact on the environment, but also have a lasting impact. So planting trees that will grow and will outlive us, kind of thing. I think that I've really learned how deeply I want that to be sort of my legacy, is a positive environmental impact up here on this property. Welcome to the farm part of the 44. This is what we call the wildlife farm. And the most adorable 3 baby boy alpacas live here. The white one here is William, very shy, very calm. This weirdo is Felix with this beautiful mullet that we just gave him 2 weeks ago. And this guy with the mohawk, the taxi driver Robert De Niro mohawk, is Georgie. And Georgie is grumpy sometimes, and he likes to snort at us sometimes, but very sweet. So this is the alpaca farm, which was like an impromptu part of the 44. We never expected to have alpacas nor build a farm. We built this farm in about 5 weeks when we found out that these alpacas were coming to live with us. It took us digging most of these holes almost by hand to try to get fence posts in the ground because it's so rocky here. So putting this farm together was no easy task. If you asked me to do it again, I would probably say no. It was super hard. Something I've learned that I wish I knew coming into this was how much work having land is and what a huge responsibility it is. When we got the 44, I just thought, okay, we have a piece of property. But it's not a passive thing. It's a very like all-consuming enterprise. There's management of the land, there's management of the forest, keeping it safe from wildfires. There's, you know, being able to restore the land. It's constant work, constant chores. We always talk about how it really has evolved into a full-time job. And I had no idea that that was going to be the case. Again, I thought it was just a passive thing. Oh, you have a piece of land, like you can just go up there every once in a while. And that's not the case. There's like road maintenance and fixing things.
Infrastructure, there's maintenance on all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a great responsibility. Absolutely.
The soil's really in poor condition in a lot of places on the island. It's really dry. And the grass doesn't grow for very long. So what we do is we rope an area off and we scoop all their poops and put it in here and then seed it. And then because they can't get to it and we're building up some soil, we'll put compost and stuff in here too. We build these areas where the soil's much more developed and we just get some more earth in here. And then the grass will grow, and once this is set up, we take it and we move it again. So we've done it, well, this is the second one, and the first one, it's over here, and it's still actually staying green through the drought, which is pretty amazing. And we're just gonna keep doing this, and every few months we just keep moving it over, and it just builds up an area of soil in that area. Okay, so this is our alpaca house. It's a 10 by 10, what was originally gonna be like a barn for hay and food for the alpacas. And as we got into it, we're like, oh, this is kind of nice. Maybe we should put like a little bunkie in here and make it a you know, tiny house. So it's not quite done. We'll show you inside, but it's going to be a spot for friends and family and performers to stay at when they're at the 44. This will be the counter, big counter, because it's like the only counter. We have a sink and cupboards. This is fir that was cut and milled on the island. And this will just be a seating area, but this center section, I'm gonna put rails here and it'll slide up, and then you can sit here and it'll be like a table for two to have, you know, breakfast, dinner, work on a computer, whatever, and then clicks down into a bench. And then a little tiny wood stove with a burner on the top. And the chimney's gonna come up in here. And this, we took forever on this, the design for this. Like, how do we put a stairway in that's not visually heavy, that fits, like takes up the least amount of real estate? And we hummed and hawed for a long time, and we came up with this idea where the steps actually go straight into the wall. It's pretty steep, but it's not like, you know, crazy, I'm gonna fall down steep. And then the railing and have it open. So it's, you know, we're pretty happy with the way that it ended up being reasonable to navigate stairway upstairs, but not too, you know, visually heavy. It was a little complicated to build, took us a little while, but we think it's worth it. And come on up. So for a 10 by 10, which is a pretty tiny house, we've got the biggest skylights. And the idea here was we found the largest skylights that were available, 137 inches long. And they go right from the top, right down to the floor. So the way it's designed is when you're lying in bed, the center of your eye line is in the center of the window. So you've got a 180-degree view from, you know, outside to the alpacas, to the sky and the stars at night. Yeah, so for a little 10 by 10 tiny house, not small, but it's fun. And those skylights are pretty neat to sleep under. So it's not quite done. I want to finish this with some cedar and just clean it up, but it's never going to have insulation. It's always going to be open like this. Like that's what it is. It's meant to look, you know, kind of unfinished and just be bare studs and the wood. So
Personal philosophy is everything should be low impact nature first. That's really important to me. Respect Mother Nature.
my personal one, which bleeds into work, is work really hard, be super nice to people, and follow your passion, and everything else will take care of itself. And that has been true for me.
Whoa, yours is really deep. Okay, so this is what we call the neighborhood garden at the 44. So we have a few growers here. So we share this space with a few folks from the community who want to grow food and flowers. And that's all part of sort of the spirit of the 44 in general, is to grow community and to allow access for folks to either grow or enjoy music up at the shop. So the neighborhood garden is a food and flower garden. And because of our our drought conditions here, it's really hard to have water up here, a rainwater catchment that we talked about. Instead of doing pipe irrigation, we've actually employed a really ancient way of irrigating these gardens, and these are called oyas. And they're made by a local potter here on the island. Fantastic group of women who have made these. And we bury these within the gardens, and we fill them up a few times a week. And the plants water themselves from under the ground. So they only take the water that they need. So the roots of the plant grow towards the oya. The plants take what they need. So there's no evaporation. The surface of the gardens stay dry, and that allows us to have like minimal pests, if at all. And it's just a really efficient way of watering this garden. So as you can see, around us is all very dry, but the beds are all super green, and that is thanks to these. So highly recommend these for anyone trying to do gardening in a drought situation. We plant food, flowers, and the alpacas are our fertilizer. So we have this amazing combination up here. We're super fortunate that we have full sun. The oyas irrigate the garden, and then we have the alpaca manure that fertilizes all of these boxes and gardens. So there's this really healthy little ecosystem that's happening here.
So yeah, like Amy said, we fill these guys up a few times a week. They estimated that we use 50% of the water versus surface watering, which we believe to be true. And it works on a delta in the moisture between what's inside the tank and outside. So if it's really dry, more water goes through that really thin bit of clay. But really interesting, if it's super rainy and wet, then it doesn't leak out. So unlike, you know, if you have irrigation with timers, they're gonna go on and off whether it's rainy or not. These things only water when it needs to be watered. It's like automatic.
The other brilliant thing is you can see the top of the soil is like super dry. So that's, as I mentioned, is keeping pests at bay because it's not attractive for them, and it also keeps minimal weeds because the surface is just like not hospitable, but it's underneath that is moist and lush and allowing for all these flowers to grow.
It's crazy how much they're growing. We've got a gardener that has one of the lots here who's really very experienced, and she's like, it's crazy, like how much this is growing. And we think it's this perfect little combination of tons of sunlight, the alpaca manure, and these oyas.
So you can find out more about the 44, the shows, what we're growing in the garden, what we're up to up here at the44.ca. And the farm's website is thewildlifefarm.com. And
we have an Instagram, the 44 Collective. It's the _44, 2 numbers, 44 _ collective on Instagram. And that's it. And keep a pretty low profile.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. Also, if you want to watch more alternative dwellings, we got a playlist popping up right here, and we release new episodes every single Sunday, so consider subscribing.